Welcome to the Giants Nation Show. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, the Football Grump, and we're back, and we are doing an offensive undrafted free agent review. The Giants have 10, actually 11 offensive UDFAs that we're going to go through, 1 through 10, and we're going to have to hit the 11th on Monday when we do the defensive UDFAs, but I love this episode every year. It's how you remember names, you remember little facts, and if you're a diehard Giants fan, and you may have some friends who are a little casual or family members who are a little more casual than you, this episode makes you an expert in the preseason. People are like, this dude's on his game when you're talking about the way RJ Perry, his foot speed is just not good enough. I should have started with something positive. How about Daquan Felton? Big guy, contested. He gets in trouble with those offensive pass interferences a little bit. Grump, how we doing?
Doing great. Undrafted free agents are always fun, and they're always fun to root for during the months of July and August. It certainly makes preseason very exciting. Everyone remembers guys like Corey Washington, and everyone remembers people like Victor Cruz. So everyone thinks they found the next Victor Cruz. It's always fun to try and look for the next Victor Cruz. And I always like trying to come away with this thinking that there's at least one or two guys that have a chance to crack your 53-man roster or grow on your practice squad every year. So I always like checking these guys out and waiting for the development at the NFL level.
Yeah, I mean, this is about finding that guy, like you said, who can make the end of the roster, and maybe 2 years from now, he's a starter, right? We found Jake Kubis in this episode last year. He ended up starting games at the end of the season for them. Casey Rogers ended up playing for them last season on this episode, and we joked about how last year was a weak UDFA class, and eventually the Giants will get another Victor Cruz, right? It's not common, but eventually they will have a UDFA that hits like that, and then you'll have UDFAs like Nick Gage who come and starts a lot of games for your team. So the UDFA episode, I think, is important to try and, identify those guys. And the Giants brought in a lot of wide receivers in this one. I mean, five of the 10 are wide receivers, or actually 6 of the 10. So we're going to get into all of it. Now, a little angry, Grump, because the Giants, literally, as we were getting ready to record, signed one, and this is like the coolest connection ever. This Ole Miss center, Reese McIntyre, the Giants signed as we started, so we're not gonna be able to talk to him about him, and we're gonna throw him on the defensive UDFA review on Monday. But I am so in love with the fact that they're getting Jackson Dart's center to be his center for training camp, because Dart will be getting third string reps in camp.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's probably the long and short of his time here. We haven't really gotten to look into him yet. We'll have him for the next one, but I would assume that at the very least he'll get Jackson Dart acclimated during his first stuff here throughout the summer. And that's pretty cool. That's a nice way of easing that transition to the next level, right? And they got another one of his old targets, as somebody we're going to talk about tonight as well.
Yeah, and that's my favorite UDFA of the class, or at least on the offensive side, is one of Jackson Dart's targets. So before we get into this episode was brought to you by some special people. We didn't get to announce any because we were so wrapped up in the draft, but Sean 100, Sean, you're the man, and you know damn well why. Leonard Clark, not Leonard Skinner, Leonard Clark. Joseph Brzee, or is it Breeze? It's spelled like Brian Brzee. Jeff Noonan, he's not 1, and he's not 11, and he's Noonan. Joshua Buchanan, Dion's brother. Kobe Vasquez, Javier Vasquez brother. Jude Hanley, not Footley, Hanley. Dylan Wilson, that's Owen Wilson's brother. Ed Flood, he loves the flood concept. Jake Owl DeRotai, the last 4 words are R-O-T-Y, Rookie of the Year. Alexander, the Great. John Murtha, Big Bertha. Ryan Donaldson, Josh Donald. Cider Rush, that's a name. Tim from Florida, I don't know. Mike 5150. Josh Boyer, he's Nate Boyer's brother. Levi Baum, he's the bomb. Evan Kajelavold, that's a tough one. Connor Martin, Jason Martin's brother. Little Robbie, Anthony Varillo, Rosillo, and then Michael Mazzella. We got some people pizza with the last few. Grump, who are these people?
These people went to patreon.com/Giants Nation, where they signed up for $9.99 to get all kinds of stickers directly from you.
Yeah, we're getting those out too, by the way. Sent out 100 the other day, sent out 100 today. So appreciate it. If you're new to this is the lifeblood of the show, of what makes it go. and it's why it's presented by you, the people. So patreon.com/Giants Nation. By the way, I want to do another plug real quick, and I know we're wasting a little time. I've done a bad job. I haven't promoted Just Giants podcast enough. I listened to your draft recap in the car yesterday. It was good to listen to Crank's point of view as someone who watches SEC football every week and all that. So go check out the Just Giants podcast. Gotta make sure I put the link in the description for that. So Grump's been a huge support through this whole draft process. I'm still here for the UDFAs. Let's get into the UDFAs. And I want to start with Antwane Juice Wells, the wide receiver out of Ole Miss, 6'1", 200 pounds. Had 550 yards and 6 touchdowns for Jackson Dart last year. The year before at South Carolina, he got injured. He broke his foot in the summer and then rushed back and then ended up missing essentially the whole season. But for South Carolina, the year before that, he had 928 yards for South Carolina after transferring from James Madison, where he had 1,100 yards. And Grump, here's a fun fact. The 2022 SEC receiving leaderboard for wide receivers is Jalen Hyatt 1, Malik Neighbors 2, and then Juice Wells is number 4. So 3 of the top 4 receivers in SEC that year are on the Giants now. I noticed him while watching Jackson Dart. And I like him as a UDFA. He doesn't have like the top long speed. Like he ran a 4.58 40, which is slow. I think he's much faster than that 40 indicates. But even if he doesn't have like that long speed, he's able to separate vertically really well with quick releases. I think he's agile. I think he's got the best acceleration by far of all the wide receivers that we're going to be talking in this. Like if we're just looking at the wide receivers in this UDFA class, I think he's the best athlete by far. You get him the ball in space. He's a good yak threat. He certainly has a second gear there. He's quick in and out of routes. Now, again, there's not this crispness that you want, but you see the speed in and out of him. And again, he's someone who can win deep. And I think if he's some better throws from Jackson Dart from having, another couple hundred yards on the year.
Yeah, so this is somebody that I believe Jim Signetti recruited to JMU. Obviously, now he left JMU and went to Indiana, where he's turning that franchise kind of into a Big Ten. I don't want to say contender, but they are reforming their program. He moved James Madison up like a whole division or something like that. Moved him into the Sun Belt Conference. Clearly, Jim Signetti has a pretty good eye for talent. And Juice Wells continued to move up. Like you said, transferred out of James Madison, went to South Carolina, transferred out of South Carolina, and went to Ole Miss, where I think it's kind of natural that his stats kind of went down from there, right? Like he's now part of a multifaceted passing attack, but I believe he had something like 19 yards was like his average depth of target or whatever, average.
He had 19 yards per catch.
Yeah. Okay, and yards per catch, yeah. A variety of routes run. I agree. I think that probably his test speed is not really his play speed, right? He understands how to maximize the speed that he has. Really, really smooth in his ability to kind of fake his way past defenders, get deep help to bite so that he can get deep. He's just, I would call him probably a savvy route runner, right? Like he's not perfect, obviously, but he understands little tricks. And he ran kind of a variety of routes. I would say that athletically, I don't think that he jumps off the board for me in any regard, but he's incredibly well-rounded. Like he doesn't do one thing exceptionally well and something really, really poorly. I think that he does everything pretty well. And I would say one other thing, this is kind of like a decent portion of the Ole Miss offense is blocking out on the edge. Like he's a willing and decent blocker. And that I think that that's pretty important considering the quarterback, right? I mean, Jackson Dart is definitely going to be utilized in a zone read scheme. So wide receivers that are on the edge actually giving an effort, getting in good body position and just bodying guys out or pinning them in, whatever it is, they need people that are going to get their hands dirty. And he's more than willing to do that.
Yeah, he has like an athletic profile to me. And not just an RAS score, but like watching his film athletic profile of like a solid Z receiver in the NFL. Like you said, I think he can separate deep. He's quick. He understands route running. It's maybe not perfect, especially that Ole Miss offense that is kind of at 1,000 miles per hour nonstop. And snapping the ball with 25 seconds, left on the clock or anytime you complete a pass. But again, like you said, he has that good understanding of leverage, selling a corner and, with foot jabs or just, changing your track. And he's got that quick, and again, you get him the ball in space, like he can make plays. You know, his season kind of went downhill in the second half. It actually felt like it went downhill. South Carolina, which was a revenge game for him, and South Carolina players were chirping him on social media, calling him Judas Wells. I don't know exactly what led to the total bad blood outside of just transferring, but he was having a good game. And Dart actually missed him on a couple deep passes that he could have got, or maybe it was one. But he took a slant, and he took it almost to the house, and then he fumbled it, and it ended up being a touchback for South Carolina. And then it just felt he had 3 catches for 90-plus yards in that game, and it just felt like after that, he was never involved. And I asked, Breck Jones of Ole Miss about it, and he's like, yeah, Trey Harris got injured, and they moved Juice into that Trey Harris role, and it wasn't really good for him. Where Trey Harris is, the more physical player, was dealing with like the hitch go type of concepts for them. And it just wasn't that for him. Now he's got, like, he can leap a little bit, he can high point the ball, but he had 5 drops this last year. So that's obviously not a huge selling point. But again, like, if we're just talking production, like, he had the most receiving yards out of any of the receivers in this UDFA class last year. And you could say, well, some guys had more the year before. Okay, well, he had, 900 plus at South Carolina in 2022. Again, was 4th in the SEC, and that wasn't an Ole Miss, run and gun offense. That was with Spencer Rattler playing a more of a pro-style offense at quarterback. So, again, I don't think there's anybody from this offensive UDFA class this year, Grump, where I'm like, that guy has a really good chance to make the roster. But of the guys we're talking about it, I do think Wells gives you the most, even though if we're just talking about offensive football and not what they bring special teams wise, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone in this group has like a good shot to make the roster, but I think that there's workable talent here. And I think that he's definitely one of the guys. I think that there's more to the fact that he's just more than just the fact that he was one of Jackson Dart's targets. This isn't just a familiarity thing. Like, there's a skill set here. I'm not sure that he's my top guy. I think I've got somebody higher up.
Well, who is your top guy? Let's move on to him.
My top guy is Beaux Collins from Notre Dame.
Another guy.
Yeah, transfer from Clemson, 6'3", 201 pounds, runs a similar like 4.5 40. Where I think the difference is the start and stop with Beaux Collins. I think that's where he kind of excels, where he separates himself among the wide receivers we're going to talk about today. I like him as a undrafted free agent, because I actually think that there's a good case you could have to draft him in like the 6th round. If you need a tall wide receiver, right? And it seems weird, right? There's a lot of the guys we're going to talk about are larger wide receivers. And he's not the biggest, but he is pretty darn big. I think he has some pretty good long speed too, but the start and stop ability with the sudden and explosive moves in and out of breaks, I think, is what separates him. And on top of that, I have written that he's a spicy blocker. He gets his hands dirty for sure, but he really gets, I don't want to say like he gets really physical with these guys, like he's drive blocking them like 30 yards downfield, but I would not be surprised if he were getting under the skin of DBs, like just, a second after the whistle, 2 seconds after the whistle, giving that little extra shove kind of thing. And I like that sort of stuff. I really like that.
Yeah, like some of my notes on him, like my first savvy wide receiver with good size, but some drawbacks. What the thing I think that separates me with Wells and Collins is that I think they, like you said, they both have the same 40 time. I actually think Collins' 40 time is a little more true to his position, where I didn't see him separate in the 2nd and 3rd level consistently, where I was able to see Juice Wells do that. But again, like, he has quickness. He's like pretty agile for his size. He did make some of those, those tough grabs that contorts his body very well and makes those like some crazy grabs. My issue is with a profile of that 6'3", a little slower with Beaux. The negatives worry me a little bit. Like, his releases, they look good, but they're a little TikTok-y, right? Where it's just like, man, there's taking a little too much time with this. Like, it looks
Yeah.
good, it works, but you got to get off the line of scrimmage. And for a guy who's 6'3" big, he has like, we talk about Juice Wells having a drop problem. Beaux Collins has a legit problem. Like, it's easy drops that are there. I think he had a 14% drop rate last year. And sometimes you judge guys on the drops that you watch on film compared to, because we don't watch all 12 games, but in the games of film I watched of Beaux Collins, there was easy drops that he had.
That's my biggest negative on him is at the catch point, actually, especially for a guy his size, but for any receiver, just the way he catches just bothers me. Like, I don't like body catchers. Like, go get the ball. Like, you don't necessarily have to run at it, but like extend your hands, like make that a shorter distance. Like, that extra little tick of time is not helpful. And yeah, for somebody with all the length in the world and he's got good speed, I'm sure he can jump really, really well. Like, I would like to see him better at the catch point, and especially like at the NFL level. Like, you're not fast enough, you're not quick enough, but what you are is tall enough. Like, you need to like round that part of your game out. But for me, I think that he can get the separations in the underneath stuff because he does have that good start and stop ability, and he can come in and out of his breaks pretty well.
Yeah, he's the best route runner out of this group.
The other thing I noticed too is he's always looking to contribute on plays as well. Like, it's whenever you see like Riley Leonard like take off and he's like 10 yards downfield, you'll find Beaux Collins sprinting across the field to lay somebody out on the way. In a lot of ways, he kind of reminds me of Isaiah Hodgins. Hodgins is obviously a better route runner, probably faster as well. But just in I don't know, just seems like a glue guy kind of thing.
Yeah, I have high, like, I always take note of what they're blocking is. For him, it's high intensity blocker. Like, he's looking to dig dudes out, on pin blocks or, crack blocks when they're running outside the corners. If there's a corner 10 yards off, he's going to go and attack him and try and block his ass. So it's just, I want to see him do a little, there's like you said, versus man coverage, again, like good releases, again, take a little long, a little too much foot fire sometimes. But he has like some quickness and he's pretty agile for a guy who's 6'3". And he has like, solid enough bursts out of his cuts. I feel like there's a lot of steps that go into everything that he does. But like I said, he's got that size that we can tort. And then that again, legit blocking pedigree. Like, he was my number 2 for me. In fact, McCollum actually might be closer to the top because I think it's so much easier to profile what he can be. Even though he's rated like way lower than these guys on most people's rankings. But just talking just football player, I feel like Juice Wells does a little more for me because I'm just like, just line him up. Hopefully he doesn't get a ton of press and, get him the ball in space. Where Beaux Collins, like, you got to be looking at him to find him, and if you know what I mean, where it's like it's a timing game with Beaux Collins, where Juice Wells is a little easier, just like getting the ball here and there.
Yeah, I can see that, and I actually agree with you on Nate McCollum. For me, McCollum is a very close number 3.
Let's talk about him. We're going wide receiver heavy. Nate McCollum, UNC wide receiver. I got the rewatch from Drake May film today while getting ready for Nate McCollum. 5'8", 184 pounds, 28-inch arms. Welcome back, Wan'Dale Robinson. Ran a 4.45 40. His production has went down every year. In 2022, he had 650 yards. 2020, he had 470, and this last year he had 270. I think it had quite a bit to do with the quarterback play, but had a high catch rate all those years, 75, 65, and 70. Obviously a slot-only wide receiver who, transferred from Georgia Tech. So I don't look at like rankings or profiles, but for these guys, because they don't have like a combine write-up, I go to Dane Brugler's The Beast just to get their information. And I'm scrolling down. I was like, man, he's way lower than, Daquan Felton and Juice Wells and all these guys. I think there's a much easier projection for him because he can be a slot receiver. Like, he's got fairly good speed and overall athleticism. Like, he's not going to be someone who wins down the field in the NFL. But Drake May he was able to get some big plays with Drake May at quarterback. I think he's fairly quick. He's got smooth breaks. He's fairly twitchy, he bursts out his cuts. And here's the one thing that makes it really easy to help project a little bit, especially with the Giants. The choice route. Brian Dable loves his slot wide receivers running that choice route. And man, that's the one route where I'm like, he's just flat out good at this. He sets it up, he knows when to break. Like he knows what to do. He looks like a slot wide receiver in a Brian Dable offense. And he's got return ability. I think he's tough as shit, taking hits and stuff. We'll talk about some more of his negatives and stuff, but I look at him and I look for like a comp, and it's Isaiah McKenzie, right? Who again is not like this really good NFL wide receiver, but can have a year where he has some yards. He's a half-inch taller, 10 pounds heavier, same arm length, same 40 time, faster shuttle, slower 3-cone drill, and both their best seasons in college were in the 600-yard range. And also for Georgia colleges, Georgia and Georgia Tech. But that's not really a comp area there. But again, I feel like with Nate McCollum, like I said, with Juice Wells, it's like, yeah, get him in space, but if he's your third, fourth receiver, how much are you giving opportunities for him? Beaux Collins, I have questions of how he finds a role. With Nate McCollum, it's very easy. Slot wide receiver. And he can do the slot wide receiver things.
Yeah, I have small but compact. So he's well built for his size. You know what I mean? He's not this slight 5'9", 5'8".
The best way to tell that is because with a guy like McCollum, I don't have the film that's cut up with the arrows, so you got to look for him each play. It was hard to find him each play, right? It wasn't easy like, oh, there's the slender, really short guy. He looks similar to the other receivers for UNC.
Yeah, he really doesn't stand out as a guy who's like sub 5'10". He just doesn't stick out like that. And my favorite note on him is that he is absolutely not afraid to take hits. He's a physical runner. He has no problem putting two hands on the ball, putting his head down and running through two defenders. I think he works over the middle very, very well. I wouldn't say necessarily fearless, but he works over the middle really well. Smooth route runner. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's like this quick jabby foot guy who's exploding in and out of breaks, but very, very smooth. I think he also understands the position. I think he understands the concept that he's involved in and what it's supposed to do and where to attack defenses. My one thing, I wish that he attacked the ball a little bit more, and I wish in zone coverages more he helped his quarterback out a little bit. Like he does a lot of like these stick route things where he's just kind of turning around, right? Just running up, turning around, and that's sort of tight end shit. Like he's open, but like take a couple hop steps to the right away from the linebacker. You know what I mean? Just make it that much easier on your quarterback. That little bit of zone understanding, I think, goes a long way. And like you said, I actually see his pathway to the Giants as the easiest because he is a savvy route runner, a savvy slot receiver who has the speed and quickness to do the position. He gets the position. He's got return ability, and the Giants don't really have a ton of slot receivers on the roster. They went out and they bought all of these like big body guys that are definitely going to be playing on the outside. And behind Wan'Dale Robinson, like really what is there to play?
Oh, and the joke used to be because they had Cole Beasley, Isaiah McKenzie. Isaiah McKenzie was there last year. Jamison Crowder. It's like, oh, they got all these, and Sterling Shepard was still, and you got all these slot guys. You think that when Isaiah McKenzie got injured last year, they didn't actually have a backup slot wide receiver. Wan'Dale just didn't miss any games. So again, like I said Juice Wells a little bit, but again, he has return ability. Now McCollum's obviously not all positive. Like a slant, right? You're a slot wide receiver, make that shit crisp. He floats up the field because he's like got his eyes kind of stuck on the quarterback instead of just running the route. So he floats up into it, making it an easier play for a linebacker or a safety to come in and lay a hit or cut that ball off, right? Like worry on your route and then you get your head turned around when you get out of your break, where he floats upfield a little bit. He also catches the ball in his chest. He doesn't have a lot of drops, but he catches the ball in his chest, which makes a little sense with 28-inch arms, but still that's worrisome. But again, like with all these guys on a UDFA pod, you're going to have a lot of negative notes. And again, I usually say this at the beginning of the episode, Grump, too. We're talking about these on a UDFA curve. We're not talking about them as third round prospects, right? So you're hearing us like not talk a bunch of negative and stuff. They're UDFAs. We understand that. We want to talk more about what they can do. With draft picks, I think it's really important to talk about their issues. With UDFAs, I want to talk a little more about what they can do. But McCollum, outside of a special team only guy, has the least amount of negative notes for me. Now, again, part of his negative notes is his size, but you're asking him to play the slot only role. Like, I, I may be changing my mind, and he's got returner snaps too, so maybe that helps get a little bit of a role, even though the Giants have their returner. But backup slot wide receiver is a need on this Giants roster, and maybe Nate McCollum just fits that.
Yeah, I don't know if he's really making the roster, but I think he has a really good chance to stick around on the practice squad and continue to develop. Like you said, we're grading them on a different scale here.
Well, and let's talk about this though, because the Giants wide receivers on the roster, you have Neighbors, Slayton, Wandale. Those are the starters. Hyatt, unless he's traded, will be on the roster. Amir Smith-Marset as a returner. And then, who's the sixth guy? Is it little Jordan Humphrey, who's not so little? Like, let's say Wan'Dale Robinson gets injured. Who is playing the slot wide receiver?
Dude, I've been screaming that from the mountaintops this whole offseason so far. I
understand you can put Neighbors more in the slot, but you're not letting him just play slot wide receiver.
But also, you want to like limit your best player on offense to addressing a weakness when somebody gets hurt and filling a depth spot. Like, no, I don't want to limit Malik Neighbors into, changing. I don't want to change Malik Neighbors' role because of an injury. That to me is bad roster management. You're going into it with a bad plan from the get-go. I was heavily pounding the table at one point during the draft for Kyle Williams just because of this exact issue. Like, Wan'Dale Robinson is the only slot receiver really on this roster, and his contract is up after this year.
Yeah, and the only other guy who fits a slot role in the team is Montrell Washington, who has a career 4 catches for 2 yards, and that happened 2 years ago. So maybe I'm excited to see where Nate McCollum. I told myself pre-show I wasn't getting really excited about any of these players, and now I'm just like, you know what? I'm excited to get to training camp. I want to see what number Nate McCollum's what team is he working with, and who gets in the preseason. Let's talk about one other wide receiver before we get into the other positions. I know we're going wide receiver heavy, but it is like the strength of this group. And this is the guy that I could see people liking the most because of his play style. And that's Felton out of Virginia Tech. 6'4", 213 pounds, 32 and a quarter inch arms. You're like, oh, he's 6'4". He ran a 4.5 40, 32.5 inch vertical. In 2023, he was the leading receiver for Virginia Tech with 667 yards. Almost like it was a percentage, 66.7 and 8 touchdowns and 17 yards per catch. Last year, just never got on the same page with the quarterback, 360 yards and 2 touchdowns on 32 catches. Now it's always like a 51% catch rate. We talk about winning down the field. He is a long striding wide receiver who can actually uncover and win downfield. Now he's not very quick. He lacks agility, but again, you get him as a strider. He can get down there. He's got strong hands. He can swat DBs off him. And you get him versus off coverage. Like, he can transition quickly into those, posts and corner routes, fairly well. And he has like some highlight grabs, just going up and grabbing the ball. This is the guy that I could see Giants fans falling in the most in love with, because he's going to create a couple explosives in training camp and in preseason.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that training camp, he's going to splash with a play where he makes somebody like Cordell Flott bite or something like that, right? Trey Hawkins will bite on
Jackson Dart throws one up and he makes a grab, right? And
right,
that highlight shared, and it's Felton's the one that's making it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's kind of, you go back and look at his Virginia Tech tape from last year, and like, basically you're just watching a bunch of overthrows. I don't know if the offense, I guess the offense is probably tailored around that quarterback skill set, which is clearly not throwing deep, a lot of running plays and stuff like that. So it's difficult to find like, them actually connecting on that stuff, but he is definitely winning downfield and getting open. I think that my biggest problem with him, and why I have him ranked 4th among these guys here that we're talking about, despite the fact that he has the speed to stretch deep and he gets open, when it comes to the underneath stuff and going across the middle, there's a very obvious lack of urgency as compared to the deep routes. You can almost tell what kind of like where he is in the route progression based on how quickly he gets off the line, because it looks like he's disinterested. That's such a negative word. I don't really mean it like that, but there's a clear lack of speed and urgency between the two kinds of routes. Everything underneath, he's just kind of running at 3/4 speed compared to what we know he can do deep.
Yeah, there's just no burst in anything that's got to be squared off. Now again, he stops well, right? So you can make you can make a few bucks, just going and stopping. But like I said, there's no burst in the squared off routes. I also think when he turned towards the quarterback, he allows the ball into his chest way too often. Um, Here's like a little note. Look out for this, right? Like I want people to go back to this offensive UDFA review podcast when it happens. Whenever they're trying to run some type of like rub route, he's just blatant about it. He is like diving shoulder first into like linebackers to try and lay them out, and they get called every single time. I've never seen anything like that. So whenever that happens in preseason, please come back and be like, Bobby told us Daquan Felton was going to do that. Like now, and it shows up in his blocking too. Like he throws his body into blocks for better or worse. There's times where there's whiffs and misses, and there's times where he's laying a dude out. So you got a little bit of like that craziness to his game. But again, like he can win vertically. He get off press. And he creates big plays. Now again, it's fun and exciting, but it's like, again, how do you translate to ever making it in the NFL? There's big questions there, because you can make all those splash plays, but you're not going to be prioritized in the NFL unless you're a legit great wide receiver. And so how do you get a role on a team? And it can't just be winning down the field vertically and making contested catches.
I do find it interesting that both Beaux Collins and Daquan Felton really kind of excel in going the deep routes and then the stop route off of it. They kind of offer pretty much what Jalin Hyatt offers in terms of route running.
At least Beaux Collins Hyatt, it can just run past people, though these guys can't. And with at least Beaux Collins, like you said, he's a good route runner. Is he gonna be able to separate by a ton? No, but he's a good. I'm gonna know where he is. With Felton, that's a bit of a question mark, and that's why I separate the two. Even though Felton can make the better play, like Felton is a better downfield threat than Beaux Collins, I think by a good bit. Where Collins is like more of those back shoulder type throws, where Felton can actually run past you and make the crazy grab. But again, like you just can't. His route running is pretty bad when it's not a post go corner stop. Like that's kind of it.
The nice way to say it is that it lacks sharpness and polish.
It does lack sharpness and a little bit. It needs a little more polish too. But you want to get off these wide receivers? Get off this this position, this diva position of wide receiver.
We can change the position. I don't know if I want to get anybody else.
All right, let's change. That doesn't make it sound any better either for changing the position. I'm actually Rushawn Baker, running back out of Elon. Yeah, that's it. By the way, those nachos in that commercial that they have in the Elon versus Campbell game, right? Because it's the live stream, has a commercial like some restaurant there. They look terrible. Rushawn Baker, running back out of Elon, 5'10", 218 pounds, ran a 4.5 240, 861 yards and 9 touchdowns after transferring from Bucknell last year. Go watch him in the Duke game. I even clipped up the runs and put him on Twitter. Grump. He's stout. Like he brings the pop to you, right? Like it's like second or third run against Duke. He just runs over a linebacker, just puts him on his ass in the hole. And there's another catch he has where he goes out of bounds and then throws a shoulder and pops the DB. He's just strong lower body, a low center of gravity. I mean, it shows up in the testing too. He bench press, he had 21 reps on the bench press. Like he's just strong, low center of gravity, good overall contact. He makes, he forces missed tackles. Now, he doesn't have speed, doesn't have like this elusiveness. Again, the open field, he's not doing much, not much receiving value. Doesn't have like that wiggle you want, but it's a UDFA pod, and show me you can do something, and he can put his shoulders through someone's chest.
I really enjoyed watching Baker, and I think the Giants fans are going to like him a lot. In the backfield, I would say that he's a patient runner with decent vision to find holes and lanes. And the open field, and he'll jump cut in the hole too, like really well. Just plant a foot and change direction. Makes people look very stupid. On top of that, he has excellent contact balance. He's a physical runner who will run through dudes, just like you said. In the open field, he has a pretty decent spin move. It's kind of like his go-to thing in the open field is to hit people with the spin move. My biggest thing against Baker really isn't the lack of burst at the line, which it's sort of the offense that they ran is like that really slow, like read handoff. I don't know how much burst he's going to have in a different kind of offense, but he definitely doesn't have the home run speed or anything like that. But for me, he's not really super involved in the passing game. I couldn't find a whole lot of like pass block reps or anything like that.
Go look at his highlight tape. He put now his highlight blocks, but I was impressed just by this. The last minute of his highlight tape is blocking reps, and he put it on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I must have missed that. Then I'm a fan. The fact that he recognizes that part of
he could be a terrible blocker. Like you said, I didn't see very many snaps of it either, but he at least the fact that he put blocking on the highlight tape makes me like him.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. I didn't see anything of him catching passes out of the backfield either, though.
No, I mean he gets a swing pass here or there, but there's nothing.
Yeah,
nothing of value as a receiver. Like again, I have no receiver. In fact, he had 8 catches for 53 yards. So.
Well, also, just like as we're sitting here railing on his speed or whatever, like he's not slow. It's a 4.5 40. Like there's speed there. It's just not.
Yeah,
home,
that
like,
might be a little bit of a home cooking pro day 40. But he's like you said.
That's true.
It's just he doesn't have like. There's going to be no wins off of like. Oh,
he's going to get caught by DBs.
Yeah, he never beat someone to the corner or doesn't make someone miss just by being quick. He doesn't have that. Even though there is some nice jump cuts he has in the back. I mean, look at that first run versus Duke. I don't know how he got out of the backfield in that one. But it's just like any time it was him again, getting in some open field and getting to the corner, it was never beating anyone to the corner. And we're talking about some lower competition. Even that one game against Duke, that's his biggest competition. He wasn't able to do that. But again, like just puts his shoulder through his dude's chest, and it was really fun to watch. He's only had 1 fumble in the last 3 years, so he takes care of the ball as well too. So Rushawn Baker, dude, it's running back is pretty tough on this Giants roster to break through at because you have Tyrone Tracy, Cam Scatteraboo, Devin Singletary, Eric Gray, and Dante Miller. So I don't know what his role is, but he's at least fun to watch. Grump, you're frozen. All right, we're back. Grump, the drones are gone. Next, let's talk about the offensive lineman. We got Jaison Williams, and his name is spelled Jaison Williams. So just know that it ain't the regular Jason. It's the real Jaison Williams of Youngstown State. He was a tackle for them at 6'3", 298 with 32.5-inch arms. So with that size alone, he's going to be a guard. But I think he's pretty athletic. Like you watch him, he's got quick feet. He has rapid foot fire. Now there's some sloppiness with his footwork. Like he's got fast feet, doesn't necessarily mean good feet. But I do think the play strength is below average. You watch him, at 23 against Jack Sawyer and JC Tulamulo out of Ohio State, and they were just able to, bull rush him consistently. Now he was able to stay in front of them, but they were just gave up power, and then even some against some lesser opponents like Villanova, South Dakota State. It was just like he wasn't handling the power super well. Wasn't overwhelmed, but just wasn't handling it well. But this is you move him the guard, keep him on the practice squad for a year, and then you revisit in next year's training camp, and hopefully you're a little stronger. Because if you're a little bit stronger, and with that athleticism, maybe we got some here at guard. And again, he's only 298 pounds, so like. When we talk about getting stronger, we like everyone just get stronger. Just get like no, you can actually add meat to that frame.
I actually think that I actually really like this UDFA. I don't think that he has a quick pathway to the 53 or anything like that, but I think he'll find his way to the practice squad. He played right tackle with Youngstown State, and you're right. He has the short, choppy steps. He's actually surprisingly patient in his pass sets. Speed is obviously going to be a problem on the edge. So he's definitely going to move inside to guard. But when you consider all that, he's fairly athletic for his size.
Yeah.
Undersized at 6'4", but he doesn't look 298 pounds. I'll tell you that much. I I think that the play strength, you're 100% right, but that comes down to pad level. Like, I think there's natural strength to his build, right? Like, he is a strong dude, but his problem is that people get their hands in their chest and they get lower than him. He really struggles to be the lower guy. But the thing is that when it comes to the bull rushes, like, people don't just like drive the shit out of him and knock him on his ass. They will beat him, but he kind of absorbs a lot of that because he has the natural strength. If he could get his anchor right, he could get his pad level a little lower, I think it will do mountains for him.
This is the player we have the most similar notes, because I'm going to have the exact, like you said, it's not like these ass kicking, but it's like lacks anchor, consistently gives up ground. Pad level is way too high, right? Like, he has quick feet, not good feet. His feet come close together, and what does that happen? That raises your pad level, right? Like, he fires off the ball in the run game, but his feet get skinny, and so his pad level raises up. And then as a pass, like, his punch just always comes in high and wide. So that even if he had pop in his hands, high and wide, you're not getting pop on that punch. So it's like I think there's legitimate things there to work through. Like, they pulled him, right, so you see that. He doesn't get the movement in the run game, but like you said, it's like, you go from 298 pounds to 313 pounds by this time. Training camp next year. A year actually playing guard. And then again, just get your feet wider, get a more wide base, and get your pad level down. Because like you said, there's an offensive lineman that we're going to talk about where I'm just like, blah, 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 garbage, garbage, garbage. Like, we don't like to do that on UDFA episodes. With Jaison Williams, is like, okay, I see the path there. And it's, again, the main thing, like you said, is getting those pads down. Because, again, go watch him against Jack Sawyer and JT Tuilemulo. Like, those guys aren't just putting him on his ass and working around him. They're just getting push. And he just doesn't have like that sustain and strain to really hold on to those blocks. Again, and his hands never land. We're not talking about like with Marcus Beaux, the worry with him is like, he does the technique stuff wise, but the strength still gives him an issue. With Jaison Williams, it's not that. It's like the technique is pretty sloppy. He's playing at Youngstown State. And it's like, I get that better and then see what we've got more up there. But again, he's obviously going to move to guard with that size. And it's a very much a let's revisit in training camp in 2026 type of player, because there's size and technique stuff you got to work on, but we're not talking about a guy who's got nothing to work with.
Yeah, I think he has a good understanding of what he's supposed to be doing. I think, like, he gets in good body position. You know what I mean? Like, he knows where he's supposed to be. He's just not low enough. He's not wide. Like you said, there are a lot of little things he needs to do right, but he's not clueless out there. And I think that he works his feet really well laterally. You look at like the stretch plays where he's in tackle, like, he keeps his feet moving. He knows to get in front of the guy, push him back, and square him off. I think that there's a pathway there for him. He's going to have to work on it, but yeah, I get this UDFA. I understand this.
That's another thing. Lateral quickness is good, but lacks identification on stunts and blitzes or guys working inside. Just needs a better IDing of it. So again, it's the UDFA pod, so don't lose your mind trying to figure out how they're going to last in the NFL and stuff. But like, there's something to work there with Jaison Williams. All right, let's talk about Jermaine Terry, tight end out of Oregon State. 6'4", 241 pounds, 33-inch arms. Ran a 4.9 40 and a 30-inch vertical. Ooh-wee. Only 1 year of production as a starter with 375 yards and a touchdown. Transfer from Cal. I mean, he's slow. Like, the 40 time is real. There's just no juice to separate at all. If you get him, running in a straight line, like, he can stride a little bit. Again, I do these like grades retroactively, where it's basically almost all these guys fall into either 7th round UDFA rookie camp invite. I gave Terry a rookie camp invite. Again, the blocking is not very good. There's some good plays, and he fires into the blocks, but he doesn't sustain as well. And then just the receiving value is simply, if you throw him a contested catch with good accuracy, he will make this tough catch, and he's hard to bring down. He's hard to bring down when he's being covered. Like if he catches, like that guy's not going to bring him down. He's able to like kind of fling that guy off. Obviously, if you get him in open field, you just go after his legs and you're able to bring him down for the most part. Like the best thing I thought is I think he works the block and release really well. He's got good technique on that, and that can get you a 15-yard play.
So he's really highly recruited out of high school, and I guess just never really lived up to the billing. He transferred out of Cal to Oregon State, which I guess that's kind of a step up, right? Lean and like athletic. I don't know about him as a blocker. From what little I was able to find, I gets in decent position, fires into it, but he just doesn't.
Can't
He
finish
just doesn't
them.
win. Yeah,
That's the exact notes I have is, fires into blocks, in line, no strain to sustain or finish the blocks. And then as a move blocker, he doesn't get to the spot. He just never gets the right spot as a move blocker. So it's like, what are we actually doing here with it? So again, I put him as a rookie camp invite, which basically means like not even an undrafted free agent grade.
I don't even see him as an inline tight end at any point in the NFL. Like to me, this is like an H-back. If anything, like he lined up all over, right? Like he was in line, he was in the slot. You know what I mean? He was definitely an H-back in certain, but to me, I think that if there's any value to him at all, it'll be as an H-back.
Yeah, and like you said, because there's just no sharpness in route running. He has no burst, and the route running is like not crisp at all. Like he gives away his routes by drifting into the break. Like I said, the block and release was the nicest thing. And again, he can make a catch. I tweet. He was the first guy I watched, so I was like, let me just tweet something out on him. And it was like he had this up the seam contested grab, and then the safety, he couldn't tackle him, and he had a touchdown, which was his only touchdown and his longest play. And they were even like, that's the play of his career. And it was a 31-yard catch for a touchdown. It was a close game against Wazoo, but still, it was kind of spoke to Jermaine Terry as a player. Let's talk about someone who rhymes with him, and it's R.J. Perry, not Terry, but Perry, offensive lineman out of South Florida. This guy will probably move to guard, but it's not for the same reasons as Jason Williams, because he's got size. He is 6'6", 341 pounds, and has 35-inch arms. He's a big boy. He ran a 5.7 440 at 17 bench press reps and a 21-inch vertical. Gave 2 sacks, 6 quarterback hits, and 15 pressures. Transferred out of Tennessee. He is a mountain of a man. I hate doing this. I really do. Because this is the UDFA pod. I think he's the worst athlete I've ever scouted since I started doing this.
Who would you say was like of all offensive linemen, who would you say is like second?
Jake Burton out of UCLA in the 2021 UDFA class. That was the year we only had 3 UDFAs: Brett Heggie, Jake Burton, and Raymond Johnson.
I mean, RJ,
like how I knew that off the top of my head.
Yeah, that was impressive. We didn't like prep for that or anything. So
I know. I was like, that's hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, I mean, he's large. He's got that going for him. You can't teach that. Those are some positives. I don't understand this one. It didn't take long for me to kind of give up and move on to another prospect. I just don't see anything.
It's again, you don't want to just watch him against the best opponents, but go watch him versus Alabama, and he loses. I don't understand how he didn't give up have a worse statistical game, because he kind of loses every single rep, because again, he lacks that athleticism, and at that size, he doesn't have an anchor. He consistently gives up ground consistently. He plays with a skinny base. He has bad balance. And it just plays upright, and when you play upright at that size and you don't have a great anchor, it just allows defensive linemen to all right, I get to put together a pass rush clinic on you, right? I get to use all my moves. And then in the run game, it's like there's just no urgency. I saw, stronger edges were able to squeeze him down. It's like at least play to the sides a little more. I feel bad because I feel like sometimes the UDFAs, this is their moment of glory. And I think their families might listen sometimes. And I don't want to be overly negative, but this was a rough watch.
Well, I mean, so I was being a little tongue in cheek, but He is large, right? And it makes it harder sometimes. Like the big guys, if you can't get low, you better be strong, right? So if you're not going to be the lowest guy, you better be savvy and you better be strong. And 17 bench press reps, and I hate doing this because I don't really care about workout stuff if it doesn't really. Yeah, I look at film first, but 17 bench press reps, we see wide receivers do that.
I mean, Daquan Felton had 16.
Yeah,
Nate
that's what I
Nate
mean.
McCollum, this law wide receiver, had 16.
I'm not really sure where the lack of strength comes from.
Rushawn
I don't know.
Decker had 21.
I don't know if it wasn't like preparation or anything like that, but for his size, if he can add strength to it, maybe there's something there because being 6'6" and gigantic, would you say he was 345?
341 and 35-inch arms.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like the measurables are there, right? Like you got to get lower, you got to get stronger, you got to clean up your feet. There's a lot that needs to happen, but that's the ideal, like, I don't know if it's ideal, but that's a very enviable frame to have for an offensive lineman.
Yeah, it's just pretty rough to watch. All right, let's finish it off with Louisiana wide receiver Dalen Cambre. This might actually be my favorite player because I was like looking for stuff on him. I even watched. So he's a special teamer. In 2024, he had the second most special team tackles in college football. He's training to become a coach. Like I even listened to a press conference of him, and he's like said, "I'm gonna be a coach eventually." He's been holding as for the kicker since 2020. In that time, the starting kicker has been 156 for 161 on extra points and 59 of 70 on field goals. That kicker, Kenneth Almendarez, he won the Lou Groza Award. The 49ers are bringing him into camp to compete with Jake Moody. He has over 1,000 special team snaps since 2020 and only 195 offensive snaps. But he was their emergency QB, so he'd be in the QB room at times. He learned that every the X, the Z, and the flanker role, what they're supposed to be. I actually want to make a friendship with this guy because he's going to be a coach in the NFL for a long time, and I cannot wait to see where he ends up. Dalen Cambre out of Louisiana, Raging Cajuns. He was there at the same time that Rob Sale was there. So there's some connection to the New York Giants. Yeah, I'm like, again, I messaged him asking for a special teams cut up because I was actually going through the Wake Forest game and literally going and watching the special teams plays, and the kickoffs just kept on going in the back of the end zone, and it was making me mad. But the great holder, right? It just catches it, gets it down real quick. Future coach, remember the name, Dalen Cambre, and just remember when he's the special teams coordinator for the Bucks when they fired Thomas McGahee. Just remember where you heard the name.
That's actually a really cool note. I didn't know that he was aiming to become a coach, and the fact that he was all over the place in the quarterback room, special teams. I actually I could see it, and I think whether he does or doesn't, whether he becomes like an assistant somewhere, going back to Louisiana as like a graduate assistant or something like that, doesn't stick. I think it's smart to bring a guy like this in. I mean, it costs basically nothing. And if you get him in the room, you get him around for maybe 2 years hanging around, 3 years hanging around the practice squad and sort of transition him into the coaching role. Why not? Right? Like get brains involved in your operation. I think it's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, I actually think
you give up nothing for it, right?
Yeah, they're going to keep him as a practice squad or special teamer. Maybe he lasts as that, but I think they're like probably grooming him to be a coach and have that like relationship when they, whoever, becomes the head coach and he becomes their special team. I don't know, but I actually, when I saw this signing on Saturday and I tweeted it and looked for like stats, I was like, oh God, like 6 catches over 5 years. Like, what am I going to do? And when I started looking, I was actually super excited. I'm like, I'm really excited to talk about this guy and follow his life, matter of fact. So
he also had a block punt.
Yeah, and he had a return for a touchdown against Liberty and against Malik Willis's Liberty team, actually. He had a return block punt for a touchdown. So he was the first guy down on those kickoffs, even though they went into the back of the end zone. They didn't return them. So I'm hoping my message to him was
be my friend.
No, You might think I'm a lunatic. And I said, because I am. I said, but I do film on every Giants pick in UDFA. Would you happen to have some special team cut-ups you can send to me? Oh, you know what? I'm embarrassed.
To the wrong person.
No, Jordan Bly, the wide receiver out of Gardner-Webb. Grump, I'll let you give your notes on him. We'll finish off with him. I could not find. I found just a couple highlights on him. He's Dre Bly's son, the former NFL corner. Um, shorter guy. He's fast. But I could not find like real film on him. But I did see play. They'll have to just tweet out one of the highlights just so to say I did work on him.
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I found film on him, but I found stuff on him.
I found film on Rice and John out of Canada. I found film out of John Giles out of West Florida. I couldn't find film out of Gardner-Webb. Gardner-Webb, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a transfer from Old Dominion. He's got a really, really fast test speed. So he went to, I guess, the UNC Pro Day. I suppose that he has some deep ties to the UNC program, despite not actually playing there. Gardner-Webb is in North Carolina, but it's way over by the Charlotte side.
There's a picture with Drake May. I think he might have been like high school friends with Drake May. I found a picture of him with Drake May in 2020. That's how far I went trying to find stuff on him, where I found pictures of him with Drake May in like 2020.
I thought for sure I would find at least like a self-made cut-up, being that he's Dre Bly's son.
Yeah.
But nothing.
Yeah, again, just give me at least a highlight tape to look at, and there was nothing. It's
so he's fast, right? Like his test speed at the pro day was 4.35,
and you see it on the highlights too.
He's definitely fast. I don't know if he's 4.3 fast, but he's fast as hell. He has some good start and stop, and he gets in and out of his breaks really quickly. But that's pretty much all I got. It's 6 feet. I will say this: he's very slight. 6 feet 160, I think, is what he's listed at. That's pretty light. But I mean, I don't really.
He's smaller than that. I think he's like 5'8". I looked it up.
Okay, all right. I was gonna say he don't look 6 feet to me. And he doesn't look that slender to be 160 pounds at 6 feet either. I don't really know. The fact that there isn't that much on him, despite being the son of an NFL player, maybe this is a really quick in and out flame out. And the fact that even with that poll, he apparently has some ties to the UNC program, but like the farthest he could get from was Old Dominion to Gardner-Webb. I don't know. I don't know what is causing him to not kind of move to a bigger program or what. Maybe he just didn't want to, and that's fine too. So I guess this is the other slot receiver kind of invite. But I don't like him more than Nate McCollum, like at all.
No, not even close. And again, I've only watched some highlights, but even watching like highlights first, I think it's like Marshall or something. Like I just didn't see much there. And again, they didn't even really play him that much. He was a transfer from Old Dominion, where again, he didn't really do much for them. He had 200 yards 1 year, but
that's what I'm saying. But like when there's guys from ththese small schools that really stand out, you find stuff. Like you feel like Elon isn't a big school. Found shit on Baker immediately. That wasn't that hard.
He's 5'10", 175. And he ran a 4.36 at that pro day. So we'll see. But again, you do see that he's fast, but he doesn't have like any return ability or special. He doesn't even play any special teams. So
I couldn't even find like him like one huge breakaway highlight or anything. It doesn't look like, for the competition that he's playing at, right? For Old Dominion and Gardner-Webb, usually like Trey Hawkins, right? Like I found stuff on Trey Hawkins and I watched him and he stands out. You know what I mean? Like at that level, you're like, oh, this guy has like pro aspirations and like he could do it. I didn't see anything in what I was watching where it was just like, this guy is faster than everybody else in the field. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty clear he's fast, but he doesn't look like a man among boys out there.
Yeah. I can't believe I wasn't able to find real. I found film on Christian Angulo out of Hampton in 2020. I found, Rice and John playing to Canada. Malcolm Elmore at Central Methodist. Like this, I couldn't find it on him. Who's your favorite UDFA since I've known you?
Ooh.
No hindsight either.
Oh man, this is hard. I wasn't really prepared for this question. And I can
go through some names. So the 2020 class, Daniel Levine, Nico Lalos, Benjamin Victor, Alston Mack, Derek Dillon, Javon Lee, Kyle Murphy. I was a Kyle Murphy guy. Case Cookus, Kyle Markway, Malcolm Taylor. A lot of these guys got cut. Dominique Ross, I loved, and they cut him before camp even started. Jaquarius Landrews. 2021 was the Brett Heggie, Jake Burton, and Raymond Johnson. We liked, and he made the roster.
I actually met Raymond Johnson. Not really, but I saw him, and he waved to me.
He's a frequenter of Candlewick Diner. Let's see, 2022. We're probably going over an hour, which is really stupid for this episode. So we got Darren Evans, Jeremiah Hall, Tyrone Truesdale, Chris Hinton, Jabari Ellis, Austin Allen, remember the 6'8" tight end from Nebraska, Timon Fox. He was our favorite from that class, and he ended up being the best.
Yeah, he's still hanging around. He's still in the roster.
Yeah. Yusuf Corker, Josh Rivas, he was there all 4 years. Trenton Thompson, Zion Gilbert, Antonio Valentino, Dalen Ball. He was actually, and then Andre Miller. Dude, Andre Miller was getting ready to be their starting fullback, and then he got injured.
Andre Miller?
Yeah, the wide receiver from Maine, who they were moving the tight end.
Oh, that's right.
He was taking over the H-back role. It was crazy.
I was thinking of Turbo Miller. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? So the honest answer, Timon Fox is probably the best UDFA out of that group, but I think the honest answer for me is Jeremiah Hall. I actually really liked the fullback type.
Yeah, he was a legit fullback out of Oklahoma.
Yeah, I really liked him, and I wanted them to get a fullback at that time for that roster. So I was kind of rooting for him. So I guess that's my answer, but he didn't really stick.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm looking at the 2023 class, see if there's anyone that I like the most. Bryce Ford Wheaton was a fun one, but it was like Deontay Johnson, Tommy DeVito. I did a film breakdown on Tommy DeVito.
So did I, and I never published it. I did all the work. I did all the cut-ups. I was like, I'm not doing this.
Oh, man. Ryan Jones, he was a tight end out of East Carolina. He actually played linebacker for Oklahoma and had an interception. I clipped up. Alex Cook. I mean, there's so many names. All right, we got to end this damn episode. Defensive UDFA episode on Monday. We got a Shrine Bowl MVP, which we're going to just have a full conversation about the Shrine Bowl next year, Grump, on that episode. So
hell yeah.
Look forward to that. We'll see you then. Until then, let's go Big Blue.